I've always loved the idea of open world games. Go inside, launch Breath of the Wild, and I'm back outside again. Fuck! Ever since I first laid eyes on a pair of controller joysticks, I've always thought of open world games as these fantastical adventures. You can go anywhere, do anything. But after playing a bunch of these games, I realized I don't think I enjoy open world games at all. I don't like the linear objectives I'm given despite being in a massive world with hundreds of different paths I can walk to, nor do I like the fact that 80% of all open world games area are just empty field. Open world games usually fails to deliver the open part of an open world. You're not really doing much of anything besides going from one objective to another. I think what I wanted from open world games is the feeling of an immersive adventure. I want to feel like I'm a part of the world, experience the history, tales, and the inhabitants through the lens of an onlooker as I make my way to my destination. And I think the game that emulates the feeling best is Dark Souls. If you've been on the internet, then you've probably heard of Dark Souls before, either from the memes or the video game lingo. Man, this is like the Dark Souls of getting cancer. Developed by From Software and published by Sony in 2011, Dark Souls was a more clean and polished version of the game that came before it, Demon Souls. Both games developed by Hidetaka Miyazaki. Is that his name? I don't know. The games are almost identical besides a few things like, for example, you don't lose 50% of your health in Dark Souls every time you die. Why did they do that? Dark Souls and Demon Souls are what we refer to as Soulsborne games, often described as hard, but fair. I'll be honest with you here, I did not fuck with that description. I really didn't understand what is so fun about dying to the same boss hundreds of times, or why anyone would spend time playing something so frustrating. But after spending time with Dark Souls, I finally got it. Every single boss you defeat makes you feel good, like an adrenaline from eating spicy food. Unlocking the next area after a boss fight feels rewarding, even if you know that you'll have to fight yet another boss that will probably kill you 100 times over. And you'll probably need a YouTube tutorial to go through it. This game is not just difficult, it's also an experience that will keep you coming back, and in the end, will leave a lasting impression on you. So how did Dark Souls manage to do it? You see that mountain over there? I'm gonna fuck it. One of the differences between Demon Souls and Dark Souls is the world exploration. Dark Souls ditched the hub system for a more manual exploration, where you need to travel on foot, no warping, just your dog slapping on the ground. The exploration in Dark Souls is less about trying to 100% an area like a Genshin Impact or Breath of the Wild, and more about discovery. You are given no maps, just vibes to go off of. See that graveyard? Don't fucking go there! With a lot of open world games, it feels like you're given a checklist of what to look out for. Open up your map and you'll see markers of where you need to be, world quests, commissions, and those god-awful towers you need to climb to unlock your map. Dark Souls don't do any of that. There are times where I would get lost and accidentally discover an entire new area by myself that I never knew existed. The game does not let you know you missed something. It's up to you to decide to explore and stumble your way into it. The more you explore, the more you find shortcuts and secret paths that will lead you to another area. And oftentimes, those shortcuts will lead you to where you started. Dark Souls' world was designed to seamlessly blend and connect each different areas to one another. The world is built vertically, meaning your endgame area is directly below your starting area this whole time. It's actually insane how deep Lordran goes. I remember thinking, New Londo Ruins was the deepest area in the game, and then I discovered Blighttown. Then I discovered Demon's Ruin. And then I discovered Lost Izalith. And then I came back up and discovered there's a whole fucking tree I didn't explore? It's not about the size of the map that makes the exploration in Dark Souls feel so good. It's the density, the shortcuts, and despite how frustrating it is to deal with, the population. The game feels alive. Music is a big part of game design. You can have the most beautiful looking set pieces with details dripping from each polygon, and it wouldn't matter if it sounded like... Dark Souls has only 2 instances of music in the entire game, Boss Fight and Firelink. The intense feeling you get when the deafening silence gets interrupted by a boss theme is something not many games can pull off. The entire game you've been listening to the sound of your armors clanking and metals clashing from enemies' sword. And then suddenly, boom, you encounter a boss and you hear nothing besides the music. And then there's Filing Shrine, which is the exact opposite. I'm sure you've heard of this exact sentence in many other Dark Souls essays and retrospectives before, but I am still going to say it because it's just that good. The euphoria I felt from making it to the undead church and taking the lift, then hearing the theme as I descend back to Filing Shrine, stuck in my brain like a hammered needle. Dark Souls did a great job of letting the atmosphere take its place and not letting the music work overtime, because when you finally hear those themes, your brain immediately registers them as either, oh, I'm home, or, oh fuck! The lack of music also added to the loneliness you feel exploring a basically post-apocalyptic kingdom, fighting off hordes of enemies, trying to find a bonfire out of any corner, and when you finally get there, you just sit in silence. It really gives you the space and time to soak it all in. This sense of loneliness is also increased by the sheer scale of the map, or at least what it's trying to convey. In most areas of Dark Souls, you can see a different part of the game, like at the Filing Shrine you can see Blight Town as well as the Great Hollow, which you wouldn't be able to reach until much later into the game. The sheer scale of the world makes you feel like a drop of water in a rainstorm, almost inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Dark Souls would have been nothing if it wasn't for the stories and lore within the game. Which is strange because the game tells you nothing. Dark Souls is not a story game, it's more of like a gossip game where the NPC tells you about the things that is happening instead of an omnipresent voice relaying the tale of Lordran on you. Your first direction was given by some random guy who looks like Drake, who tells you to ring 2 bells, one above and one below, and you just kinda do it. A lot of the game's stories depends on the player reading more into it outside of their gameplay, which is why YouTube channels like Wadi Vidya became so popular. The creator of Dark Souls, Hidetaka Miyazaki himself, said that this style of storytelling was inspired by his childhood of reading English sci-fi and piecing things together like a jigsaw puzzle. A lot of the stories are either told by NPCs talking about an unrelated topic during a questline or item description, which... Do you read item description? I know I don't. From a storytelling point of view, this is probably horrible. If a game requires you to watch 18 different YouTube videos from some random YouTuber to understand the story, then it's probably not good. But on the other hand, this open-ended way of conveying stories through environments and tidbits really adds to the immersions. It makes you feel like you're a historian uncovering history by gluing together scraps of artifacts. Hey, do you know that Dark Souls armors and weapons are designed to be as practical as possible? I've been on a YouTube rabbit hole lately, and recently I found a YouTube channel called Robin's Sword, which upload video shorts reviewing armors and weapons from different games. And I've been obsessed with it. Finding out that Siegmeyer armor can work in real life blew my mind. The areas in the games are also based on real life location, my favorite examples being the Crystal Cave from Mexico. Yeah, that's somehow a real place. What? And Lost Izalith, which is inspired by Cambodia's Angkor Wat, but you'd never be able to tell because Lost Izalith looks like it. Dark Souls is not a perfect game per se, far from it. Everything from the third act onward felt like it was tied together with rubber band and expired chewing gums. But even so, nothing has been Dark Souls for me. I guess what I'm trying to say is, Dark Souls had everything going for it. Despite being one of the first games directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki, he still considers it as one of his best works. Quote, "On a personal level, I would say the first Dark Souls and Bloodborne left a very big impression on me. It had the best interconnected world which was never attempted again in later entries, and also the atmosphere and vibes, and overall it felt like a real adventure. It feels like you're exploring and experiencing everything as if you're a part of it. The game is now 13 years old, and nothing has topped its immersion ever since." But this raises a problem. Now that I've played Dark Souls, nothing ever lives up to it. It's like every time I play anything else, I think, I could be playing Dark Souls right now. So from now on, I'm not going to be playing anything unless it has something to do with Dark Souls. Perfect.